If you're obsessed with food like me, and you probably are if you're watching this video, you're most likely also getting a ton of targeted ads for Matsudai Ramen's DIY meal kits to make at home. Because I'm making this video, you could probably already tell that I bit the bullet and bought a few of their kits. In the name of science, of course. However, their flagship restaurant in Cardiff is actually not that far from me, so we went there as well. In this video, I'm going to take you to Matsudai Ramen's restaurant and also show you 3 of their ramen meal kits that you can order online in the UK. We're going to compare the restaurant to the online kit, and then I'm going to give you my honest opinion on whether or not I think you should go ahead and make an order. If you enjoy this video, make sure you like and subscribe to support the channel. It will really mean a lot. I'll also be posting more videos where I show you some awesome places to get food that you won't want to miss. When I kept getting ads for this meal kit and had found out that they actually had a restaurant in the Welsh capital of Cardiff, I wanted to come here first before trying their kit. The reason for that is because I really wanted to have an idea of what the ramen should taste like. With a meal kit, a lot could go wrong, such as my cooking skills, loss of freshness in delivery, and the list goes on. So I wanted to have in my mind exactly what founder James Chant's vision was. The menu in the restaurant is actually very slimmed down, with the drinks menu being larger than the actual menu. For the ramen section, they seem to have a seasonal tonkatsu flavor, a vegan option, and their signature chippy lane maze soba. They also have some smaller snack dishes available to try. We went for their miso tonkatsu gyokai ramen and their chippy lane maze soba. Tonkatsu, also known as Hakata ramen, is an incredibly popular type of ramen originating in Fukuoka, Japan. Ton means pig or pork in Japanese, and katsu means bones, so tonkatsu ramen literally translates to pork bone ramen. This is because the soup broth is traditionally prepared by boiling collagen-rich pork bones such as trotter and neck over hours and hours. The collagen in the connective tissue breaks down and combined with fat, marrow, and minerals gives the broth its opaque color and a thick, silky texture. This cooking process also makes tonkatsu ramen an absolute flavor bomb of richness and porky flavor. Matsudai's variation in their restaurant is that they combine their tonkatsu element with a gyokai, or seafood broth, and a miso tare, or seasoning. The broth here is incredibly flavorful and bursting with umami. This dish also deviates from a traditional tonkatsu, which normally uses a straight noodle, with a more ieke-style wavy noodle. The noodles were honestly perfect, al dente as they should be, and even after being left in the bowl for a little bit, they actually held their texture a lot and never went soggy. The waviness of these noodles also made the thick, rich broth cling to them easily, so each slurp was a flavor bomb. Our ramen came with the standard traditional toppings of chashu, or roast pork belly, nori, seaweed, menma, bamboo shoots, and ajitama, a marinated soft-boiled egg. The chashu was cooked well, very soft and tender. The menma was also not bad and a great addition. If you've never had marinated bamboo before, it's really nice and provides a refreshing texture. Bamboo doesn't have too much of a strong flavor on its own besides a small amount of sweetness, so it absorbs the soy marinade well. The texture is most similar to a button mushroom, soft but a bit of a bite. Ajitama is my favorite part of ramen. There was a story back in 2019 of a ramen shop in Tokyo that got burgled, but the thief didn't actually take any money. They did take 130 marinating ajitama eggs from the kitchen. Obviously, I don't endorse stealing, but let's just say I get it, you know? The other type of noodle that we wanted to try was their chippy lane maze soba. It's so named as it pays tribute to the city it's located in, Cardiff. One of Cardiff's most iconic streets is Caroline Street, home of many fish and chip joints, aka chippies, that line the street, that also do chicken curry and chips as one of the most popular dishes for people finishing up a drunk night out. Caroline Street is nicknamed Chippy Lane, hence Chippy Lane Maze Soba. a soupless ramen with a curry miso sauce and curry chicken thighs. We also have some pickles, crispy noodles, and crispy onions for some texture contrast. One bite of this and it immediately takes me to Caroline Street. It's got such a rich curry flavor and the sauce hangs onto the noodles so well. If chicken curry is one of your go-to orders at a chippy, you're going to love this dish. Overall, I definitely get the hype here. The main standout was the broth, one of the more flavorful broths of tonkatsu ramen I've ever had. There were so many layers of complexity that even though this was the only type of tonkatsu ramen available in their slimmed down restaurant menu, I definitely did not feel like I missed out. But let's say that you aren't able to make the trip down to Cardiff to visit Matsudai at their restaurant and instead ordered one of their meal kits online, available for nationwide delivery throughout the UK. Does the meal kit still compare? Unfortunately, if you live outside the UK, there is no delivery available to you, but I still hope you'll find this video informative for either if you ever make the trip to the UK, or in case you wanted to try out some ramen kits from your country and you want to have an idea of the potential they can have and what you might be able to expect. The first thing I noticed when ordering off their website was that they had a much bigger selection of ramen available compared to at the restaurant. Instead of being limited to only one type of tonkatsu, there were 3. There were also 3 vegan options and other ramen types that weren't pork-based, such as tori paitan made from chicken, shoyu ramen which is soy sauce based, and a miso ramen. I'm a big fan of tonkatsu, so I just stuck with those. I got the tonkatsu gyokai miso ramen, which is the one that I had in the restaurant, to make a direct comparison. I also got the Sunset Red, which contains some house-made chili oil, and I had to also get their classic. I've had a lot of tonkatsu ramen over the years, so I was eager to make a direct comparison between Matsudai and others I've had. The second thing I noticed was that the prices for the ramen was slightly less than in the restaurant. However, considering that you needed to pay extra for an ajitama egg if you wanted one, which I did, and including the delivery fee, it came out to roughly the same price. So in my opinion, if you do live close enough to the restaurant where you can just go to it, I would definitely go with that option because there's the added bonus of not needing to cook it yourself and no washing up. When the meal kit came, it was packed with ice to keep it chilled, and the great thing about this meal kit compared to some other ones that I've read about is that it's completely fresh. They only deliver on Fridays and the ingredients keep until the following Monday. The ingredients are all suitable for freezing if you can't have it straight away, but we went ahead and cooked all of this fresh to get the experience as intended. All of the ingredients were pre-packaged separately, and the instructions can be found online at Matsudai's website. Full disclaimer, I've never done one of these ramen meal kits before, so I had no idea what to expect. My only basis of comparison were instant noodles. In terms of easiness, it is a bit more complicated than instant noodles, but the instructions were easy enough to follow. All of the ingredients were fresh, so they essentially just all needed to warm through. It was really quick to put it all together. The main downside is that there is a decent amount of washing up afterwards. You needed one pot for the noodles and the egg, another pot for warming the broth, a frying pan for the chashu, knife and chopping board for the spring onion, and that's not including the ramen bowl itself and any utensils you use. I definitely wouldn't buy one of these kits expecting it to have the full convenience of instant ramen where everything is just one pot. You're essentially trying to recreate the restaurant experience at home. That makes sense considering that Matsudai started its meal kit service during the COVID-19 pandemic, allowing people to replicate restaurant quality ramen during lockdown. This is their tonkatsu miso gyokai, which took about 7 minutes total to make, including prep time. It's going to be used as my basis of comparison to the restaurant. Surprisingly, it was spot on. I actually prefer the ajitama eggs on the kit versus the one in the restaurant, as the white had set a bit more and it had a bit more of the jammier consistency, which I like. The broth tasted virtually the same, and so did the noodles and most of the toppings. The only thing that was better in the restaurant was the chashu, but I'm not a chef. I mostly just warmed mine through, whereas you can tell in the restaurant that there was an actual char. However, if you were a good chef and not impatient like I was, you might be able to get a similar effect onto your own chashu using the meal kit. Next up is their Sunset Red Tonkatsu Ramen, which has that pork bone tonkatsu base, but rather than the seafood and miso like in their tonkatsu miso gyokai from earlier, we have some of their house-made chili oil. It also had some different toppings. Here we have woodier mushroom, pickled ginger, spring onion, chashu, and the extra ajitama egg that I got. One interesting difference I notice is that we're now using traditional straight noodles, typical of tonkatsu ramen. Once again, the broth was a standout. One slurp and you're immediately filled with warmth. We did a bit better on the chashu this time by having it brown for a bit more, which made a huge difference. The woodier mushroom was a welcome topping addition. There's little flavor on its own, it just provides a nice texture contrast to the rest of the dish. I'll be honest though, I wasn't too much of a fan of the pickled ginger, but that might just be my taste. It's a bit too strong for me. Also, despite having chili oil as their ingredient, this wasn't spicy at all, which makes sense as typically Japanese food isn't normally spicy. There's a very slight warmth to it compared to a standard tonkatsu, but I wouldn't think of it as a spicy broth. If you're going into this ramen expecting a standard chili oil kick, you might be a bit disappointed. Don't get me wrong, it's still good, just don't read chili oil and expect the standard amount of spice. The final ramen here is their classic tonkatsu, which I was really excited about. Every time I go to a ramen restaurant, tonkatsu is my go-to order, so trust me when I say that I've had a lot of tonkatsu broths in my time. Now, I can definitively say that Matsudai's classic tonkatsu broth is up there with one of my favorites that I've ever had. It's so incredibly rich and creamy, the porky flavor of the broth is not shy at all, and one sip and warmth just fills your whole body. I can imagine having one of these on a cold winter's day and it really lifting the spirit. Really pared down toppings this time with the chashu, spring onion, extra ajitama egg, and some woodier mushroom. Once again, Matsudai went with the traditional straight noodles. Unfortunately, this ajitama egg was dead on arrival with the white having cracked open, but it still tasted nice. It did lose some of the yolk though. Okay, so my final verdict is this. If you can easily get to Matsudai Ramen, I would definitely go to the restaurant and get their tonkatsu broth. It wasn't that long ago that there were absolutely no good ramen options in the area. Believe me, I've looked hard. So having Matsudai open here is a very welcome addition to Cardiff's food scene. However, if you can't easily get to the restaurant to save yourself the washing up, the meal kits do a really darn good job of replicating that restaurant quality. Besides frying chashu, none of the other aspects of this ramen actually need much cooking skill, and you can put a bowl together in about 5 to 10 minutes. As I mentioned earlier, everything is just basically needing to get warmed through on the stove, and that's it. The noodles take 90 seconds to boil through, the egg 1 minute, the broth warmed through until piping hot, and the chashu fried to taste. All of the other toppings such as menma, mushroom, spring onion, and pickled ginger can be put on cold. Taste-wise, Matsudai Ramen's meal kits are a 10 out of 10. If I were to pick only one for you to go for, I would go for the classic tonkatsu. I know that sounds boring, and my final choice surprised me as well, but it is just that good. As of the release of this video, the classic tonkatsu ramen kit is £13 and their tonkatsu gyokai miso ramen is an extra £1. If you wanted to add an ajitama egg, that's going to set you back £2 and delivery is £5. There are free deliveries over £70. So, is it worth it? My opinion is yes. The classic tonkatsu is definitely something you should try at least once. The cost is on par with going out to a restaurant, but you can trim it down in several ways. First, £5 delivery for one bowl is pretty steep. I would definitely put in multiple orders in one go. Remember, delivery is always on Fridays and the ingredients stay good until the end of the following Monday, so you can have multiple ramen days in a row. Alternatively, you can freeze it and it'll keep for 3 months. However, I can't vouch for the quality in freezing as I didn't do this myself. Also, if you know how to soft boil your own egg, I would skip the ajitama and try to make your own at home. I would say that the main things that you're paying for when you buy a Matsudai meal kit is the sensational broth and the perfectly chewy noodles. Their ajitama isn't bad, but not their biggest strength, so it's not a bad way to cut costs to make it more worth it. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Please also consider subscribing to the channel if you're interested in more videos about food, where I show you some of my top recommendations for what to eat. Until next time!